Take a moment with me, because 2026 has brought in some important changes that can quietly affect your life, your travel, your taxes, your paperwork, and in rare situations, even your ability to move freely across borders. Rules have been updated, reporting expectations are tighter. Passport procedures are changing in ways many people still haven't heard about. If you don't know what's changed, you could run into slowdowns at airports, unexpected questions at border control, surprise financial penalties, or stressful situations that could have been avoided with a bit of preparation. What I'm about to share with you is not meant to scare you. It's meant to prepare you. These changes matter because they affect millions of people who live, study, work, visit family, and build their futures across more than one country. So stay with me until the end. Take a deep breath. Let's walk through this slowly, clearly, and calmly. This is U.S. Citizenship and Visa.
The goal here is simple: to take complex U.S. immigration and citizenship information and make it feel understandable, grounded, and manageable. Today, I'm going to walk you through what's changing, who may be affected, when these updates really matter, and most importantly, what you should and should not do next. I know immigration topics can feel overwhelming. The language sounds technical, the rules don't always feel fair, and it can sometimes seem like one wrong step could create big problems. If you've ever worried about using the wrong passport at the airport, or not knowing what the government expects you to report, or whether a change in law might suddenly affect your status, you are not alone. Many people feel exactly the same way. The good news is this: information brings clarity, and clarity brings calm. Not every change applies to everyone. Not every update is negative, and when you understand the rules ahead of time, you gain confidence instead of fear. Before we talk about new reporting requirements or passport changes, let's start with the foundation. What does dual citizenship really mean in simple language? Dual citizenship, also called dual nationality, means you are legally recognized as a citizen of two countries at the same time. That can happen in several ways. You might be born in one country to parents who are citizens of another, married to someone from another country and later gain that country's citizenship, naturalized in a new country while your original country still considers you its citizen, a parent whose child is born abroad, where that child gains citizenship from both place of birth and parent. For many people, dual citizenship is a blessing. It can make travel easier. It helps families stay connected across borders. It preserves cultural and language ties. And it can open doors for work, education, and long-term security. In many situations, including in the United States, dual citizenship is allowed. The U.S. generally recognizes that you can hold another nationality without automatically losing your U.S. citizenship. But here's where things become important. Holding two citizenships often means you carry two sets of responsibilities. Two governments may expect certain information from you. Two countries may have rules about passports, travel records, taxes, and financial reporting. And these rules don't always look the same. As technology improves and countries share more information with each other, systems that track travel, identity, and finances have become far more connected and detailed. That is the real context for the 2026 changes. They're mostly about security, identity verification, fraud prevention, and financial transparency. They are not designed specifically to go after dual citizens. But when systems tighten, people who don't fully understand the rules can stumble, often by accident. A form is never filed. One passport shows a different name than another document. A trip is booked without checking when a passport expires. Small details can create big headaches when the underlying rules have quietly changed. So as we move forward, remember this. Dual citizenship itself is not the problem. Having more than one passport is legal in many cases. What matters is awareness, accuracy, and honesty. If something feels confusing, that does not mean you're failing. Even highly educated people find immigration rules difficult, and that's completely normal. Here on U.S. Citizenship and Visa, the aim is to guide you calmly through each update, to help you see where you might need to pay attention, and to remind you that staying informed is one of your strongest protections. We'll move step by step. I'll explain what's changing, who it affects, and how you can stay prepared without panic. And just a quick reminder, what you'll hear today is general information, not personalized legal or tax advice. For specific situations, it's always wise to speak with a qualified professional. Let's start with one of the biggest areas where dual citizens need to be more aware in 2026.
Financial and identity reporting. Over the past several years, governments around the world, including the United States, have strengthened systems for financial transparency and identity reporting. The main focus has been preventing fraud, combating money laundering, tackling tax evasion, and stopping misuse of international financial systems. The goal is not to target immigrants or dual citizens as a group, but when rules become stricter, ordinary people can get caught in the middle, simply because they didn't know what had to be reported. If you are a U.S. citizen, whether you live inside the U.S. or abroad, the U.S. expects you to report your worldwide income. That means things like money you earn in another country, bank accounts held overseas, certain foreign investments and assets may need to be reported to U.S. authorities, even if you're already paying tax in that other country. Having dual citizenship does not remove these obligations. In some cases, it can make the paperwork slightly more complex because you're dealing with two systems instead of one. For many people, the idea of reporting foreign accounts feels scary. But simply having a bank account back home is not what creates most problems. Serious issues usually arise when accounts, assets, or business interests that should be reported are not disclosed at all. That's when you might start seeing penalties, delays, or official letters that feel very intimidating. In recent years, data sharing between countries has become much stronger. Many banks and financial institutions now cooperate with the U.S. when they detect accounts belonging to U.S. persons. This means it's becoming harder to hide accounts, and it's becoming less necessary to even try. You protect yourself far more by being transparent and organized than by trying to keep things invisible. What matters is not fear. What matters is clarity. If you're not sure whether an account, an investment, or a type of income needs to be reported, that does not make you a criminal. It means you need accurate guidance. You already help yourself by keeping copies of financial statements, knowing where your money is, staying honest on tax and immigration forms, and asking questions when something doesn't make sense. Not everyone is affected in the same way. Many dual citizens have simple, straightforward situations and never run into serious reporting issues. If your situation feels complicated or confusing, you are absolutely not alone. Now let's turn to something every dual citizen experiences at some point: travel, passports, and border rules. This is one of the most misunderstood areas.
But the core rule for U.S. citizens is actually quite simple. If you are a U.S. citizen, U.S. law generally requires you to enter and leave the United States using your U.S. passport. This is true even if you also hold another citizenship.
You have a valid visa in your other passport. You're traveling with both passports in your bag. When you walk up to U.S. immigration, the passport you present should be your U.S. passport. For many people, this feels strange at first. They ask, why can't I just use my other passport to enter the U.S.? From the U.S. government's point of view, when you arrive at the border, you're not a foreign visitor. You're a U.S. citizen returning or visiting home. If you try to use another passport, it can look like you're trying to come in as a tourist, which can cause confusion, extra questions, and delays. On the other side, your other country often expects something similar. Many countries prefer, or even require, that their citizens enter and leave using that country's passport. So in practice, dual citizenship usually looks like this. You leave country A using passport A. You arrive in country B using passport B. And then you reverse the process on your way back. At first, this can feel complicated or suspicious. But for dual citizens, it's often the correct and normal way to travel. Problems mostly appear when a passport has expired or is close to expiring. Names or birth dates don't match across documents. Airline tickets show one spelling and passports show another. Add in new security checks, biometric systems, and stricter verification, and it becomes easier to see why officers may ask more questions than before. This does not automatically mean you're in trouble. Often, it simply means systems are verifying your identity more carefully. One more crucial point: passport validity. Many countries require that your passport be valid for at least 6 months beyond your intended stay. Airlines can be fined if they fly someone who is later refused entry, so they check this very carefully at the gate. That means you might feel, my passport is still good for a few months, but the airline agent may see it as not valid enough for your destination's rules. Renewing early is almost always safer than waiting until the last minute. This is especially true if you have 2 passports and switch between them when you travel. Staying calm, renewing early, and planning ahead prevents most airport problems long before you even leave home. Next, let's talk about security checks and biometric verification. Over recent years, more and more passports have added embedded digital chips, advanced security features, and stored biometric data like facial images and fingerprints. At many airports, you'll see machines that scan your face, read your e-passport, or take fingerprints, instead of relying only on manual stamps and visual checks. For most travelers, this makes travel safer, more consistent, and sometimes faster. But it also means that discrepancies are easier to detect. For example, the system may flag your record if
Your name is spelled differently on 2 passports. Your date of birth appears inconsistently, or your past travel patterns look unusual or incomplete. That doesn't automatically mean you did something wrong. Often, it just means the system or officer wants to confirm that several records really belong to the same person. Older manual systems might have missed these small mismatches. Modern digital systems usually do not. If you are pulled aside for extra screening, the most important things you can bring are calm and honesty. Answer clearly and respectfully. Show all relevant documents. Briefly explain why something might look different. Maybe your name changed after marriage. Maybe one country writes family names in a different order. Maybe your passport was recently renewed and the number changed. These are normal, human situations. Extra screening is usually about accuracy and security. It is not automatically a sign that something is seriously wrong. Also remember that countries now share more travel data with each other. Border officers may already see where you traveled recently, which passport you used, and how long you stayed. That's part of global security and fraud prevention, not a personal attack on you. If you're asked more questions than usual, remind yourself, this is part of their process. Breathe. Stay polite. Let them do their job. Now let's move to a topic that can be especially stressful for some dual citizens: military service obligations. Not every country has compulsory military service, but some still do, and their laws can apply to citizens who live abroad, dual nationals, and sometimes people who visit more frequently. If you are a citizen of a country with mandatory conscription, you may technically be expected to follow those rules when you visit, you stay for an extended time, or you register your residence there, especially if you are within the eligible age range. For many families, this comes as a shock. Someone may have grown up almost entirely in the United States, barely speak the other language, and still be considered eligible for service in that other country. This can feel frightening and confusing, especially when those obligations conflict with school, work, or family life in the U.S. From the U.S. perspective, simply having dual citizenship is usually not a problem, but actually serving in a foreign military, especially in certain roles or political situations, can raise questions about loyalty, obligations, or national security. These situations are rare, but serious enough that they deserve careful attention. If you know, or even suspect, that your other country has compulsory service, the best approach is don't panic, don't ignore it, and don't make rushed decisions. Instead, contact that country's embassy or consulate. Ask clear, specific questions about your status as a dual citizen living abroad. Find out whether there are exemptions, deferrals, waivers, or special rules for citizens who primarily live overseas. If you're worried about how complying, or refusing to comply, could affect your U.S. status or travel, speak with a qualified immigration or nationality professional before you act. The key message is simple. Don't guess. Get information. Understand your options. Move slowly and carefully. Another area that raises questions is voting and political involvement. Many dual citizens wonder quietly, if I vote in elections in my other country, could that hurt my U.S. citizenship or status? In most cases, simply voting does not threaten your U.S. citizenship. As a U.S. citizen, you have the right to vote in U.S. elections, whether you live in the U.S. or abroad. At the same time, many other countries allow their citizens to vote while living overseas, so a dual citizen can often legally vote in U.S. elections and elections in their other country, as long as each vote follows that country's laws. Where things can become more complicated is not with voting, but with deeper political involvement. For example, running for office in another country, accepting certain foreign government positions, or serving in highly sensitive political or security roles. In these cases, questions about loyalty, conflicting obligations, or foreign influence can arise. These situations are usually evaluated one by one and are relatively rare, but they are important if you're considering a major political role abroad. If you're unsure, pause before you act. Gather information, and if needed, seek professional advice. Whenever you complete U.S. government forms, immigration forms, security clearances, or other official paperwork, answer questions honestly, especially when they ask whether you hold another citizenship, whether you've worked for a foreign government, whether you've participated in elections or held office abroad.
Problems usually come from not disclosing something important, not from the simple act of casting a legal vote. Transparency is one of your strongest protections. Now let's talk about children, because that's often where dual citizenship begins, and where missing paperwork can cause the most difficulty later. When a child is born outside the United States to a U.S. citizen parent, that child may be eligible for U.S. citizenship at birth, depending on the parent's citizenship, their marital status, and how long they lived in the U.S. before the birth. At the same time, many countries grant citizenship automatically to any child born on their soil. So a baby can become a dual citizen from day one, sometimes without the parents even realizing it. The real challenge appears years later when the child needs proof. If parents never reported the birth to a U.S. embassy or consulate, never obtained a consular report of birth abroad or similar record, never applied for a U.S. passport, That child may face unexpected obstacles when they apply for a U.S. passport, enroll in school or university, seek certain benefits, or try to prove their citizenship and identity. It can be heartbreaking when a young adult discovers that crucial steps were never taken, not because anyone meant harm, but because their parents simply didn't know. The encouraging news is that awareness now can prevent many of these problems. Parents can report births abroad to the nearest U.S. embassy or consulate, keep copies of birth certificates, consular reports, and citizenship documents, apply for their child's passports early, make sure names and birth dates match across all documents. Even if everything wasn't done at birth, it doesn't always mean the opportunity is lost. There may still be options to confirm, correct, or claim status later, though the process can be more detailed. The key principle is simple. Document early. Double-check details. Keep everything safe and organized. Children rely on adults to protect their future identity. Investing a little time now can save them years of confusion and frustration later. Eventually, some people with dual citizenship ask a difficult question. Should I give up one of my citizenships? This usually comes from feeling overwhelmed by tax rules, government letters, reporting requirements, or the emotional weight of living between two systems. Online, renouncing citizenship can sound quick and simple. In reality, it is one of the most serious and often permanent decisions you can make. When you formally renounce a citizenship, you are not putting it on pause. You are, in most cases, closing a door that cannot easily be reopened. You may lose the automatic right to live and work in that country, the right to vote there, certain protections from that government, and sometimes the ability to pass that citizenship on to your children. Some people renounce and only later realize how deeply it affects their identity, their family ties, and their options during global crises. There are also practical steps many people don't think about. Appointments or interviews at a consulate, government fees, final tax filings or financial clearances, waiting periods, and the emotional impact of signing away a nationality. None of this means renunciation is always wrong. For a small number of people, after careful reflection and professional advice, it can truly simplify life. But it should never be rushed, never done purely out of fear or frustration, and never decided based only on something you heard in a short video or social media post.
When a decision can reshape the rest of your life and your children's lives, it deserves time, information, and serious thought. With everything we've covered so far, it might feel like there are endless moving pieces. But staying prepared usually comes down to a few simple habits. Keep your passports valid. Don't let them get too close to expiration, especially if you travel often. Renew early. Make sure your name and birth date match across passports, birth certificates, immigration documents, and major IDs. Organize your paperwork. Keep immigration papers, citizenship records, tax documents, and vital certificates together in one safe, easy-to-find place. If you have bank accounts, property, or investments abroad, know exactly where they are, keep statements, and never ignore official letters or notices. When a question on a form confuses you, don't guess. Pause, look it up, or ask someone qualified for help. Keep a simple travel log. Especially if you use different passports for different trips, write down dates, countries visited, which passport you used. That simple record can save you hours later if you're asked for detailed travel history. Most importantly, remember, this is not about being perfect. It's about being aware, honest, and organized. Immigration and nationality systems can feel intimidating, but preparation turns fear into confidence. You don't have to figure everything out in one day. You just need to stay informed, move carefully, and take things one step at a time. Travel can become even more complex and more interesting when dual citizens visit countries where they hold no citizenship at all. In those situations, choosing which passport to use usually comes down to practicality. Many travelers pick the passport that offers visa-free entry, has fewer restrictions, or leads to shorter lines at immigration. Different passports have different strengths. The U.S. passport is powerful in many parts of the world, but there are places where another passport can make travel even smoother. What matters most is checking the rules before you book your trip. Does your chosen passport need a visa? Is an online authorization required? Do you need a return or onward ticket? Do you need proof of accommodation or certain vaccinations? Having two passports doesn't eliminate the need for planning. It gives you more choices. But every choice comes with its own conditions. Make sure the passport you plan to use has enough validity left. It has blank pages. And the name on your ticket matches the name on that passport exactly. When immigration officers see consistency and preparation, your journey is usually smoother. When things don't line up, conversations become longer and more stressful, and that stress is often avoidable. Now let's briefly touch on government employment and security clearances in the United States. Many people with dual citizenship dream of working in public service, law enforcement, defense, intelligence, or sensitive research and technology roles. Holding dual citizenship does not automatically disqualify you, but it often leads to more detailed background checks. Authorities may look at your ties to the other country, close family members who live there, property or businesses you own abroad, foreign bank accounts, and your travel patterns. The concern is not to punish you for your background,